ABC's David Muir, the most trusted anchor in America, the most watched anchor in America. Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir the #1 newscast in America. Most trusted, most watched. David Muir on ABC.
And now, your daily dose of debate, breaking news, and uncensored views. This is the Michael Medved Show.
And another great day in this greatest nation on God's green earth. Who says so? The President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. No, he's not talking about the Epstein files. We'll put that aside for a moment. He's talking about the inflation report on Friday. He's talking about economic numbers. He's talking about the greatest boom in human history. In fact, he wrote a column about it in the Wall Street Journal, which is regularly, as he acknowledges, been very critical of his economic management. We will get to that. But what happened with that special election in Texas, a district that Trump carried by more than 20 points, where the Republican lost, and lost big time? Why did that happen? And what happened at the Grammys to lead President Trump in the middle of the night, well after 1 a.m, to threaten legal action against the Grammy Awards for music and recording? We will bring you that highlight. I'll tell you one thing everybody knows already. Bad Bunny won, which means that President Trump is going to have an interesting time taking in the halftime show at the upcoming Super Bowl, where we all know that the Seattle Seahawks are planning to win. There were midnight tirades from Trump. There were huge anti-ICE protests around the nation. And, oh, yeah, we are welcoming the third day of a government shutdown, a partial government shutdown, but it's still there. And what does that signify? There's also a report from Reuters that U.S. producer prices, this has to do directly with inflation, posted the biggest gain in 5 months, with businesses passing on the cost of tariffs. There is also this, more on inflation. U.S. producer prices increased by the most in 5 months, as I mentioned, in the month of December, amid some passed through from import tariffs, suggesting inflation could pick up in the months ahead and allow the U.S. Federal Reserve to keep interest rates steady for a while. The larger than expected rise in the producer price index last month, reported by the Labor Department on Friday, that was January 30th, was driven by a surge in services, mostly trade services, which measure changes in margins received by wholesalers and retailers. There were also strong increases in the pieces and the prices of hotel and motel rooms, as well as airline fares. But goods prices were unchanged, which I guess is relatively okay news. Meanwhile, the House has facing a roadblock to a quick end to the shutdown. The hopes that the House could end the partial government shutdown on the first day back in session, that's today, appear dim as Democrats are opposing attempts to fast-track a funding package. The second shutdown of Donald Trump's second term began at the end of the day on Friday, and most people didn't notice, with a Senate-passed funding package needing approval from the House before going to the president for his signature and to put off any crucial decisions for a while longer. The funding lapse only affects some government agencies and departments, as others have already been funded through the rest of the fiscal year. The shutdown is poised to last at least until tomorrow, 1 day longer than originally anticipated, as House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Democrat from New York, said that his fellow Democrats won't provide the votes needed to move the package along a faster process, which that could get it approved. It could be approved today or tomorrow. And one hopes that this item of annoyance and harm can also be dealt with quickly. The fast-track process requires a two-thirds vote in the House, meaning at least 70 Democrats would have to vote in favor. Instead, Speaker Mike Johnson will turn to the regular process, which will take slightly longer. How much longer? Who knows? In Trump's first term, people who were happy with the economy, according to the polling. This time, they are not. In fact, if you judge solely by consumer sentiment, Trump's first term was the third best economic situation that Americans experienced since 1960. Trump's second term is not only worse than his first, it is the worst economic management ever recorded by this indicator. And that indicator is public satisfaction with the economy by the president. The public satisfaction with the economy by this president in this term is very significantly below what it was even for Joe Biden. CNN is also responded to a jab Sunday by Grammys. The president has responded, I should say. This is covered by CNN, coverage by CNN, that President Trump responded to a jab Sunday by Grammys host Trevor Noah regarding his friendship with the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Noah said incorrectly about me that Donald Trump and Bill Clinton spent time on Epstein Island. Wrong. Capital letters, 3 exclamation points. I can't speak for Bill, but I have never been to Epstein Island nor anywhere else. Who owns Epstein Island right now? You wonder about that. In any event, Trump posted on social media today, on Friday, the Justice Department released more than 3 million, that's 3 million Epstein-related documents. Not all of them mentioned Donald Trump, but 5,000 of them did, more than 5,000, which references Trump more than 1,000 times, well, it's more than 5,000 times, apparently, along with other prominent figures. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche signaled on CNN yesterday, that the DOJ will not pursue new charges related to the Epstein case. There's also this eloquence from President Trump that deserves a certain amount of attention, his posting on Truth Social. President Trump said the Grammy Awards are the worst, virtually unwatchable. CBS is lucky not to have the garbage litter their airwaves any longer. The host, Trevor Noah, whoever he may be, is almost as bad as Jimmy Kimmel at the low ratings Academy Awards. Noah said incorrectly about me that Donald Trump and Bill Clinton spent time on Epstein Island. Wrong. I can't speak for Bill, but I have never been to Epstein Island nor anywhere close, and until tonight's false and defamatory statement, have never been accused of being there, not even by the fake news media. Trevor Noah, a total loser, better get his facts straight. But wait, he's one of those people from South Africa we're supposed to be welcoming. Oh, excuse me, Trevor Noah is mixed race. He is not all white like the people that President Trump wants to welcome from South Africa. In any event, he says, Noah, a total loser, better get his facts straight and get them straight fast. It looks like I'll be sending my lawyers to sue this poor, pathetic, talentless dope of an MC and suing him for plenty dollars. Ask little George Slopadopoulos and others how that all worked out. Also ask CBS. Get ready, Noah. I'm going to have some fun with you, President DJT. Is he going to cause a flood for Noah? we will all find out more about the state of the nation and its direction coming up on the Medved Show.
When you want your spring break to feel like... and your kids' pool day to feel like... and your hotel bed to feel like... ooh, and room service to feel like... because at Hilton, hospitality feels like...
Your cabana's ready. Would you like fresh towels?
it matters where you stay. Book now at Hilton.com. Hilton, for the stay.
And on the Michael Medved Show, with increasing information and literally millions and millions of pages being released from the so-called Epstein files, being released late according to the legislation that required the Justice Department to release this information, there is a new pedophile participant who is apparently now connected very directly to Jeffrey Epstein. No, I'm not talking about Donald Trump, not talking about Bill Gates, not talking about Larry Summers, and not talking about Bill Clinton. Who are we talking about? The Daily Mail over in Great Britain reports a headline: Epstein's sex empire was a KGB honey trap. That doesn't sound good. The pedophile financier had multiple talks with Putin after his conviction, with Russian girls flown in to harvest compromat on world-famous figures. Compromat is the Russian term for compromising information that could be used to blackmail people, the kind of information that, at least according to some reports, they had against Donald Trump. And many of those reports, by the way, have been disregarded, challenged, all of them denied, of course, by Trump. But the Mediaite reports in their headline, New York Times uncovers 5,300 Epstein files mentioning Trump in exhaustive analysis. The New York Times did a deep dive into the latest files tied to pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Files, pedophile, will have fun with that. The New York Times deep dive was publicized yesterday, and it found that President Donald Trump's name appeared in more than 5,300 of the documents. The Times piece said reporters used a proprietary search tool and found more than 38,000 references. 38,000 references to Trump and his wife, his Mar-a-Lago club in Florida, and other related words and phrases in the latest batch of emails, government files, videos, and other records released by the Justice Department. The New York Times added previous installments of the Epstein files, which the department released late last year, included another 130 files with Trump-related references. The files are peppered with references to Mr. Trump, who had been a close friend of Mr. Epstein's in the early 2000s. While Mr. Trump has repeatedly downplayed the relationship, the two men bonded, which is an interesting term, over their pursuit of young women. Mr. Trump has denied any wrongdoing in connection to Mr. Epstein, the report concluded. The Times gave examples of some of the mentions, including handwritten notes from one interview in September 2019, about a month after Mr. Epstein died by suicide in a Manhattan jail. A note that says that a victim whose name has been redacted recalled being transported in a dark green car to Mar-a-Lago to meet Donald Trump. This is a good one, huh? The victim recalls Mr. Epstein saying to Mr. Trump. The notes do not suggest misconduct by Mr. Trump, says the New York Times. In any event, The idea is this is a good one, huh? Maybe carved in stone in some future gigantic memorial that President Trump wants to build. There are also scattered references in the compendium of letters that was presented to Mr. Epstein on his 50th birthday in 2003. Trump is suing the Wall Street Journal for linking him to the birthday book, which he undoubtedly is. He drew the sketch. It's his handwriting, his signature, and a very compromising point of the sketch that appears in the birthday book. And people who put together the birthday book confirm the fact that it was Trump's participation. The film, the files, include emails from a woman named Melania. 3 years before Trump married Melania Knauss, a woman named Melania wrote a warm email to Ghislaine Maxwell, Mr. Epstein's longtime associate, who is now serving a 20-year prison term after being convicted of participating in a sex trafficking operation. Dear G, said the October 2002 email from Melania, nice story about J.E., meaning Jeffrey Epstein, in New York Mag. You look great on the picture. I know you are very busy flying all over the world. Have a great time. The sender signs off. Love, Melania. The sender's email address is redacted. And by the way, there appears to be nothing about Epstein in the Melania movie, which we will be talking about. It opened across the country in 1,700 theaters. We'll talk about that. On Sunday yesterday, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche told CNN's Jake Tapper that the DOJ looked into sexual misconduct allegations against Trump in connection with Epstein, but did not find credible information to merit further investigation, the Times reported. Trump told reporters Saturday that the files show absolutely absolve him of wrongdoing. Well, that's good for Trump to be able to take that position. There's also this, which is kind of an amazing headline. The Trump humiliated after Dem wins in deep red district. Where? Deep in the heart of Texas. Yeah, really deep in the heart of Texas. Donald Trump was dealt a staggering blow, reports of the Daily Beast, after his endorsed candidate for Texas State Senate lost to a Democrat in the heart of MAGA country. First-time candidate Taylor Raymond, 33, defeated his GOP opponent, whose name was Wambsgans, in a special election in a district Donald Trump carried by more than 17 points in 2024. And what's happening to Trump's popularity, and what does it mean, and what is the bigger threat to the political system? We will get to all of that, and why is the Kennedy Center being closed? Fascinating. We'll get to that one as well, all coming up on the Medved Show.
With Venmo Stash, a toggle on one hand and ordering a ride in the other means you're stacking cash back. With Venmo Stash, get up to 5% cash back when you pick a bundle of your favorite brands. Earn more cash when you do more with Stash. Venmo Stash terms and exclusions apply. Max $100 cash back per month. See terms at venmo.me/stash terms.
And on the Michael Medved Show, the same way that I think there are many people who may have missed the idea of a government shutdown, welcome to our third day. They're hoping to get the shutdown opened up again, coming up maybe tomorrow, maybe Wednesday, but God willing, it will not last 45 days like the last shutdown did and did real damage to our country. In any event, massive protests took place across the USA over the weekend, with demonstrators calling for ICE agents to leave their cities. not the cities of the ICE agents, but the cities that the ICE agents were ordered to invade. The rallies and marches came after a nationwide strike on Friday, which prompted a shutdown of schools, workplaces, and businesses from coast to coast. Many people continue to voice their solidarity with Minneapolis, where the deadly shootings of Alex Pretty, he was shot 9 times, and Renee Good, she was shot 3 times, have transformed the national conversation on immigration enforcement and appear to have driven a tone shift from the White House in recent days. Some top Republicans are also encouraging the administration to shift its strategy, warning that the optics of ongoing protests and violence in Minneapolis and other cities could backfire on the party. It could backfire on the whole country. And meanwhile, we have President Trump responding to the literally millions of documents released as part of the so eagerly awaited Epstein files. Here was the president aboard Air Force One speaking to reporters about why he is grateful and glad and happy and celebrating because the Epstein files have been released. This is President Trump, clip 7.
It looked like this guy, Wolf, was a writer, was conspiring with Epstein to do harm to me. And I didn't see it myself, but I was told by some very important people that not only does it absolve me, it's the opposite of what people were hoping, the radical left. That Wolf, who's a third-rate writer, was conspiring with Jeffrey Epstein to hurt me, politically or otherwise, and that came through loud and clear. So we'll probably sue Wolf on that. And maybe the Epstein estate, I guess. I don't know, but we're going to certainly sue.
You want to sue the Epstein estate?
Well, you may, I guess so, because he was conspiring with Wolf to do harm to me politically. That's not a friend.
Okay, the idea that that's not a friend, he was described, and Epstein described Trump as one of his best friends, and Trump described him back in that birthday book as one of his best friends, and talked about how much they had in common, particularly in their interest in women. And now there are these little notes between Ghislaine Maxwell and Melania Trump that are getting attention. The Epstein victim's lawyer, one of many Epstein victim lawyers, is named Eric Fudali. He went on to CNN and spoke about President Trump and his handling and response to the files so far. This is lawyer Eric Fudali.
Hear that there are survivors out there saying that they have read their names, even Jane Doe's, that they have read their names in these documents. I mean, what does that tell you about the process, the review process to put these documents out there?
It's really concerning. And really what's so baffling about this is on one hand, it's a cover-up, but on the other hand, it's incompetence. So you have this combination, this sort of like perfect storm of trying to cover up what they don't want people to see, but then accidentally covering up what they shouldn't allow people to see, or accidentally showing people what they shouldn't see. I mean, this is just, I don't know if I've ever seen in the history of this Epstein case, or really anything, such sheer incompetence and such an obvious and robust effort to cover things up and withhold things from the public. But the fact that after all these redactions, all this time, we're almost a month and a half past the deadline for which all the documents were supposed to be produced, that they're still producing documents that are not fully redacted. I heard there was a driver's license that showed a survivor's name. I mean, it's just, it's incomprehensible. It's incomprehensible how poor a job, how this has been handled.
Okay, and it's only the beginning, because there are still literally millions of documents apparently yet to come. They have not been very efficient in terms of, remember at the very beginning when she was appointed Attorney General, Pam Bondi said she had a list. It was a simple list of people who were involved in the Epstein scandal, and she was going to release the whole list. Well, it's more than a little list. It's a gigantic trove of papers, video camera, video excerpts, and much, much more, recordings and more. Sarah Longwell talked about the situation with the Epstein files on the Bulwark podcast with Tim Miller. Tim Miller, not to be confused with Stephen Miller. Here is Sarah Longwell, clip 10.
Our government is being run by pedophiles. Just.
So if you're concerned about the children, that might be somewhere to start.
I can't believe that on the week where millions and millions of emails have shown that everyone from Howard Lutnick to the new Kevin running the Fed to Elon Musk and everybody was super down to go party with America's most notorious pedophile, that they've all been lying to us about their relationship with him, the extent of it, and that extends to our president of the United States, the man in the White House. The calls coming from within the White House. They're giving sweetheart deals to Ghislaine Maxwell. But no, guys, we cannot focus on this because somewhere some gays might be raising some perfectly well-adjusted children. Anyway,
look, our nation, our government is being run by pedophiles. What is this going to do to Trump? The difficulty is there are so many other things that are serious and bizarre and extraordinarily dubious, including the announcement of building a gigantic new triumphal arch that would be the Independence Arch that would be towering over the Lincoln Memorial. And, of course, what will the arch look like? It'll look like the Arc de Triomphe, except much bigger. 250 feet tall. Trump says that's fitting because it would be the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. I'm sure he wants to put gold on the terrific arch, and he wants it to overshadow the Lincoln Memorial because there really is only one arena in which President Trump would actually tower over Lincoln. Lincoln was 6'4". President Trump claims to be 6'3", but that is highly doubted. In any event, maybe with this arch overshadowing the Lincoln Memorial, aside from ruining the architectural integrity of Washington, D.C., it would rival the Gateway Arch in St. Louis, which right now is supposed to be the biggest arch in the country. But this all going along with the effort to build a ballroom that would be the greatest in the world. And all of this going on when another Trump project, pet project, the idea of the Trump Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, it's closing. Not permanently, but closing for restorations and improvements. But a signification, it seems to me, of the lost way and weird priorities of the Trump administration. We will get to David French's chilling account of where that could lead coming up right here on the Medved Show.
It's not difficult to find out who. It's easy to know what and where. But why is harder. Why takes patience, intelligence, determination. Why takes over 700 of the best journalists in the world, united by a fearless drive to unearth the truth. Why is difficult and more important than ever before. For the why, Financial Times.
And on the Michael Medved Show, there is an alarming and extremely persuasive and important column appearing in the New York Times this month of February of the bicentennial, the 250th year of this republic. And it's a piece by David French, who is a very well-known, universally respected religious conservative, Christian conservative. and a decorated veteran of service in the Iraq War and in the U.S. military generally, where he was with the Judge Advocate General Corps. In any event, he writes the following in a piece that everyone should look at least. It's posted up on our website at michaelmedved.com. It's called "This Is Not a Drill." It's only February, he writes, and the November elections are already in peril. When I think back to the days and weeks before January 6th, 2021, one thing that's clear is that many of us suffered from a failure of imagination. We knew President Trump's lies and conspiracy mongering were dangerous, but it's hard to think of a single person who predicted that a MAGA mob would actually storm the Capitol building. Very few people anticipated the sheer scale and scope of the effort to overturn the election, or that an incredible 147 Republicans would vote not to certify Joe Biden's clear and unambiguous presidential victory. He won by 7 million votes in the popular vote. We did not realize that they would go along with something that plainly corrupt and dangerous. We must not make that mistake again. So I'm going to do something a little bit unusual. I'm going to ask you to imagine alongside me. Here we go. Imagine that it's Friday, October 30th, 2026, and the president's approval rating is low, abysmally low. He hasn't been able to reverse the gradual decline that began after the inauguration for his second term. Meanwhile, Democrats are leading the generic ballot in all the polls by wide margins, and Democratic voters are far more enthusiastic about going to the polls than Republicans in a normal midterm election. This would mean that Democrats would easily take the House of Representatives. They could even win the Senate. But this is not a normal election year. Now in October, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which rapidly expanded through the year, is running large-scale operations in Democratic-controlled cities. Hundreds, if not thousands, more American citizens have been caught in the dragnet. So have thousands of lawful residents. Remember how Trump, this is an interruption for a moment, how Trump said that the operations by ICE would only involve the worst of the worst? And the indications are that there have been literally tens of thousands of U.S. citizens, people who were either born here or are legally naturalized citizens of the United States, who have been picked up and detained and families separated. Citizens, lawful residents, and undocumented immigrants alike have been shackled and transported to brutal detention facilities in Texas and Florida. That's David French imagining the election season. As a result, non-white citizens are reluctant to go anywhere near ICE, and rumors of ICE conducting operations near polling stations spread like wildfire. Thousands upon thousands of citizens choose to stay home rather than risk arrest to vote. During early voting, reports of citizens discovering they are no longer on the voting rolls have multiplied. Most of them have Latin, African, or Asian-sounding names. The voters named Smith and Jones, no problem. But if you're a Gonzalez or a Diallo, then you've been purged. Meanwhile, the FBI has raided several election officials in blue cities and swing states. Lawmakers in red states have moved to take over election administration in certain blue cities, citing the president's raids and indictments as justifications. The president himself evokes their anxiety and their anger. His social media feeds are full of the wildest accusations, constantly repeating even the most specious conspiracy theories about the 2016 and 2020 elections. He keeps up his calls to arrest former President Barack Obama. He also calls for the arrest of his Democratic opponents as governors and lawmakers. He tells his base, the people who trust him more than any news source, that the Democratic Party is a criminal enterprise and that its members will destroy the country if they win in the midterms. Right-wing media are full of mugshots of heavily tattooed, scowling criminals that ICE has allegedly yanked from the streets. The banner on the television underneath their mugshots reads, Democratic voters. President Trump's raids and indictments prove to them that they were right all along, that the 2020 election was corrupt. And when federal judges issue injunctions requiring federal law enforcement to stay away from polling places, that's all the proof they need to raise the alarm. This election is rigged, they shout, and they're right, just not rigged in the way they think. The horrifying thing about our current moment is that not a single aspect of the scenario above is far-fetched. In fact, some of it is already happening. The Wall Street Journal reports that Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, has turned much of her attention to investigating the 2020 election, an election that withstood thousands of legal challenges. According to the Journal, she's investigating possible foreign interference. Federal agents are seizing American citizens on the streets. There is an enormous amount of evidence that they are racially profiling their suspects and mistreating their detainees. Even if federal agents don't show up at polling places, the presence of armed federal agents in the polls is prohibited by federal criminal law. They raise the risk of travel, even for American citizens who might look Hispanic, by blanketing majority Hispanic parts of a given city. And if federal courts enjoin ICE activities, would anyone trust to comply? As the Republican-appointed chief judge for the Federal District Court of Minnesota wrote last week, ICE has likely violated more court orders in January of 2026 than some federal agencies have violated in their entire existence. Trump has filled he concludes, his administration with cronies and true believers, and the Attorney General is one of the chief enforcers. In 2020, Bill Barr, who was then the Attorney General, resigned rather than continue to pursue Trump's stolen election claims. This time around, by contrast, Ed Martin, the Justice Department official, posted a picture of himself standing next to Sidney Powell, one of the chief legal architects of Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election. In 2023, she pleaded guilty to 6 counts of conspiracy to commit intentional interference with performance of election duties. A president who doesn't care about the law, who commands an obedient Congress that is supported by a radicalized base of tens of millions of people who believe his lies, represents a threat to the next election, says David French. I fear that millions of citizens are still too complacent. We aren't aware of the peril we face, and as you take note of each of the incidents I mentioned here, you may realize that Trump can unlawfully influence an election without explicitly rigging the count. By deterring his enemies from coming to the polls or even going out onto the street, he can engineer the outcome he seeks. So consider this to be something of a fire drill, says David French. It's an alarm, one of thousands that should be ringing across the country. MAGA's acts of aggression are already intimidating. Trump isn't just trying to stop the steal again. Another kind of theft might already be underway. We'll talk about that and the impact on the polling and the shape of the future facing the challenging days ahead for this greatest nation on God's green earth.